Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Well, it's episode 209. To my knowledge, there's any cool calibers with 209. But, you know, if you double 209, you get 418. I think there's a 418 out there somewhere. That could be cool. So anyway, how's everybody doing tonight? Thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat and having some patience while I basically chucked my tower. Well, I didn't really chuck it. It's sitting down there on the floor after I blew it out with an air cannon, and then it still was
howling.
Yep. So, but Mark, is the echo still there? I don't know. 209 Mikey Magnum. Sounds like a good idea. I'll have to work on something like that. Okay, good. No echo. Yay. Okay. Glad it sounds better. So, all right. There was some wise asses in the podcast group earlier this week. I know, it's hard to believe. But they said we should start a Reloading Podcast drinking game. Do you know what the premise of that game was, Jim?
What's that?
Every time I say so, somebody drinks. So in that case, I'm going to win the damn game. So, drink, bitches.
And it's a fact that I want to see all these boys get drunk. So it's like, let's do it all. Yeah, it's a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact.
So anyway. But, yeah, it's been an interesting night. But it was a sweet day. So there's another drink for y'all. Just because I like torturing people. Just kidding.
It's a fact today is Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. Did anybody actually have tacos? I did not.
I had shepherd's pie. It was good.
Jason, did you have tacos?
I had a burrito.
Close
enough. You owe me a beer, Michael.
Damn it.
Next time we get to Dick's Last Resort.
All right.
Next time you get to Dick's and then you cut out. What did you say?
Screw you, Jason. You pervert. I said Dick's Last Resort.
All I hear is Dick's.
Well, that's because that's all you're interested in? Come on now. This is the wrong podcast for that kind of thing. You set yourself up. Shut up, Jason. Stop before you make it worse.
All right. First question. After, what did everybody do this week? Jim, what'd you do?
Worked on my shell swarm. Just lost audio, Mike.
I muted. So.
Oh, okay.
How about you, Jason? What'd you do?
This week, listen to you two jokers.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you guys are kind of boring when I'm not around.
Well, you know.
Bored when you're around.
I liven up the podcast, mister.
Yeah, we beat them. We beat the hell out of each other. That's all. Please ignore that person in the background behind me. She is not part of the podcast. The one with black hair playing on her phone.
So, in other words, we didn't see anything.
We don't see anything.
Yeah. Tacos do sound good. They need delivery. See, Taco Bell is missing an opportunity here. They need taco delivery.
As a matter of fact, I've just found out today there's a Taco Bell in Angier, North Carolina, which is where I work. It's about 3 minutes from the shop where I work.
Yeah, you don't want to eat that while you're at work because that means bathroom trips later. Not good. That's something you want to eat in the safety of your own home.
I generally have something like that on the weekend.
There you go. Now you're thinking safe.
Anyway, this is a reloading podcast, right?
Something like that.
Well, don't they have like Uber Eats, Mike, to where you can have Uber go pick you up a taco?
Not here.
We
suck.
Gotcha.
First question.
Speak for yourself.
Well, you don't have Uber Eats either, so.
That doesn't mean we suck.
You stick with that theory. You stick with that theory.
Anyway, let's continue.
I wrote down a question in the show notes. And that question is, so I'm one of those people that only listens to the audio podcast, and I want to say thank you for all the info. I've been reloading for about 4 years and probably close to around 6,000 rounds loaded so far. I thoroughly enjoy learning new things and reaffirming what I know, what I think I know. I do have a question that I've heard mixed things about. I reload my rifles more for hunting. How much does off-center flash holes affect accuracy? I only shoot 150 yards or less on average, but I do get some 400-yard shots occasionally. I'm more concerned with hunter's accuracy and not super precision target loads. Any input would be appreciated. Well, this question is one that kind of people go back and forth about. And as I'm talking, I'm trying to find who the gentleman was that posted it, so that way we can give them credit. But, it was Daniel. So we want to make sure Daniel gets credit. Okay, so the brass in question is everybody's favorite Perfecta, which is far from perfect. So, but yeah. Jason, what do you think? 150 to possibly occasionally 400 yards. Is the off-center flash hole going to make a difference?
150 to possibly 400 tells me 400.
Yep.
And I'm going to say yes. I haven't tested it, but I am familiar with Imperfecta, and I've got issues with it. So I'm going to say, yeah, it makes a difference.
Jim?
I agree with Jason. All you got to do is think about an off-center flash hole, aiming the spark off to the side of the case rather than down to the center where you get a nice even burn of the powder. You think about it burning from the one side or the other, left or right, top or bottom, doesn't matter.
Right.
And you think about that off-center burn as opposed to a nice true spark coming up through the dead center. You're going to have your gas flow is going to be affected. Everything affects accuracy. Everything affects accuracy. Mostly the shooter, but everything mechanical, everything physical, everything in the brass, the bullets, and all that jazz, everything affects accuracy. So I have to agree. Jason's 100% right.
Why would it make so much of a difference if you're loading the same powder charge? Why would it make so much difference how
Well, it's like when someone blocks your fan. You know, your fan at work when you're standing there in front of a machine, sweating your ass off, and you know the fan's only cooling you on one side. You know, it's because the gas flow is not even. The airflow, air pressure, if you want to call it that, it's not even. It's turbulent. It's more turbulent than usual.
Okay. So the drawback would also be if I have two cases. They're sitting in my internal box magazine like this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just for demonstration purposes, we'll lock this in. All right. So on the top case, the way it's sitting in there, the flash hole's actually at, let's say, about 2 o'clock. Just off center to 2 o'clock. Then the bottom one is the direct opposite across the case at 7 o'clock. Is the powder going to burn the same for both of those?
No.
No. My suggestion, take all those imperfectas and turn them in for scrap. Don't even bother with them.
But, you know, the thing is, too, we got to remember that Daniel was talking about hunting accuracy.
Right.
Yeah, how much is it going to affect it? I can't say. Will it have an effect? Absolutely. The question is how to what degree. That's why I say 150 yards, it should be fine. You know, you just about can't miss it 150 yards with a good rifle if you're all steadied up and all that. 400 yards, now you're starting to get into possibly affecting it. But is it a 1/10 of an MOA, or is it a whole minute of angle? I don't know.
So cartridge A, which was the one with the flash hole up at the 2 o'clock position, let's just say, for throwing numbers out there, generates 15,000 less PSI than cartridge B.
Mm-hmm.
And when it hits max pressure, it's actually back here, but to get there, it started burning here and burned all the way back.
Right.
At 150 yards, you don't think that's going to make much of a difference?
No, not enough. Not for hunting purposes. No, I don't think it would. You know, remember, we're talking, you know, minute of deer, that sort of thing.
Right. But it could be the difference between hitting them in the engine room and a gut shot.
Could be, yeah, depending again on the degree of severity.
Right.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I just, you know, it's all a matter of degree and proportion.
Exactly. So. Kyle brings up a good point. Hunting rounds should be as accurate as possible for ethical kills. It's true.
Oh, absolutely. And we want ethical kills.
I hate to admit this, but Hook'em's got a point. If you keep using brass with offset holes, you're going to break a pin.
Yep.
God, that hurt. Kind of made me throw up in my mouth a little bit.
It's tough to agree with Hook'em on anything.
It is. It's rough.
I would say there is enough of a chance, depending on what concentration or what percentage of the case is filled. And like M4813 just said, the other thing we're not really considering yet is load density.
Mm-hmm.
If it's load, it's going to make a lot more difference than it would if it's a compressed load.
You're right.
Probably not going to, you maybe 50 or 100 feet per second. With a light load, you could be talking 300 or 400 feet per second easy.
Yep.
And more. And 150 yards even, that's going to be enough to cause issues. So,
which is why I like the way you say when we reload our ammunition, we can make ammunition tuned to our guns, which makes it in effect better than factory ammo.
right.
I'm all for ethical kills when it comes to hunting. Absolutely. No point in making an animal suffer. So we don't want to miss. We don't want to load bad ammo. We want to take and eliminate those off-center flash holes. Like Hookham said, we're going to break a decapping pin sooner or later.
Yep. Jason, we had a question in the chat last week about the Mech press, which you have. And so would you be able to give a review of that?
Surely.
And don't call me Shirley.
Is there a specific question or just talk about it?
Overall, compared to, like, say, the little green one you got sitting behind you or some of the other ones you've used.
Okay. The Mech is built very nicely. It's got a floating shell holder. It's not as stout as the Rock Chucker. My buddy Terry Dillashaw did break his Mech. I don't know what he was doing. You know, Terry's kind of one of those do-it-yourself guys out in the garage. He does things. So I don't know if he was like swaging an anchor or loading ammo. I couldn't tell you. But it's not as stout. I think it is a fine product. I would definitely buy one again if I needed one. The price is right. Unless you're going to be doing something like super heavy duty or not using lube or whatever, I think it's okay. And I'm
Jason,
sure if you did break it, they would replace it. I guarantee you they will.
Jason, question. Is it made out of cast iron or aluminum?
It's cast iron.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you found that was annoying or you didn't like, or that you would think of improving on the press?
Give me a moment to dig it out.
Yep. So, Jim.
Sir.
Doesn't the Bonanza also have a floating shell holder?
Yes, it does.
Okay. What's the advantage of a floating shell holder?
It's universal. You don't need shell holders per se. You don't have to constantly change shell holders.
Okay. Is there any other advantages?
To my way of thinking, it's also quite very nicely self-centering.
Okay.
Which means, when you bring that shell plate up, or the shell, whatever it's called, the shelf the shell sit on, when you bring it up, they tend to center up underneath of the die. And the die, it floats around quite nicely too. I don't want to say quite a bit, but it floats around inside the slot that's cut for it, floats around rather nicely.
So here is our Mech, and I know he broke it right down here.
Oh my God.
See if I can give you a decent picture. He broke it in here somewhere.
Maybe for cam or camo. Am I trying to get it to cam over?
It'll cam over just fine. I'm not exactly sure what he did.
You know,
it's a fine press. It's very solid for what it is, and like I said, the price is right, but it's not a Rock Chucker.
Okay.
But if you're loading ammo, I mean, go for it. The Mech is nice. I like it.
What do you like better about the Rock Chucker?
Just that it's heavier, thicker. You can literally swage on it if you wanted to.
Okay.
In my mind, the heavier you are, the less likely you're going to break it when you do something stupid, because you will do something stupid at some point. That's all.
Yeah. So
I'm not a small man. I don't do things lightly. I don't have finesse.
Yeah.
Bull in a china shop might be a good description.
Mongo smash.
Exactly.
Ah! Ah!
Well, you guys made me go way over. I'm running out of gin here. I might have to stop for a break.
Well, then we'll answer this next question while you go get a refill. Because
Roger that.
if you planned better, you would have a bar in that room. See, I have the fridge right here. So when I do drink the rest of this beer, there's more waiting.
I wonder if my barmaid will answer if I yell at her.
She may.
Or she may come in here with a skillet.
Either way, we're going to be entertained.
I think I'll just go fix my own. See you in a minute.
Cheers.
Oh.
Jim, next question. Mike wants to know, how much impact does a press have on finished ammo for long-range centerfire rifle?
Well, to state the obvious, you need a press to put it all together. You know, you can't reassemble. You cannot reassemble or reload your ammunition with standard reloading dies. I better put that disclaimer in because I did read the same posting. You cannot reload ammunition with standard dies, standard shell holders, without a press of some kind or another to put it all together. The press holds your die, it holds your shell holder, and it lines everything up with the ram. And, you know, how much impact? Dramatic impact. Now, I think what the question was actually talking about was, you know, how much slop is in the die in the 7/8-14 opening in the top of the press or wherever the die is actually mounted. Now, the RCBS has a press. It's an arbor press, pretty much of an arbor press, and the die actually moves up and down on theirs. I think it's called the RCBS Summit, and the die actually moves up and down rather than the cartridge. So, you know, you've got to have a press to put it all together. Now, with that being stated, I happen to know for a fact that there is such a thing as a Lee Loader. Lee Loader Jr., I think it's called. Yeah. And yeah, Mike's got one, pull one out right now. Keeping it handy for the show. And all you need is a plastic mallet, and that kit comes complete with everything except for the components themselves: bullets, brass, powder, and primer. But everything you need is right there to reload your ammunition, albeit slowly, but it does make very fine ammunition. And that same posting that Mike and I are rehashing, the particular gentleman, one of the gentlemen in there was talking about bragging out the fact that he used a Lee Loader to get his bullets, well, I should say bullets, out to 1,000 yards with ammunition put together with a plastic mallet and a bench.
So this is...
Hold it steady, Mike.
This is kind of the picture of the Lee Loader instructions. I have 3 of them. Garage sales rock sometimes. So this one is for a 303. And then this one is for a 30-30. And then I think this one was a 45-70, but I don't remember. So they're all labeled. Let's see here. Lee patent. Oh. somewhere along here that's labeled. It says what they all are. Anyway. I don't know.
So anyway, the point is, how much impact? Well, it depends upon which way you want to go. Using a press is going to be quite a bit faster than that lead loader those lead loaders you have right there with you.
Yep.
But what's nice about that lead loader is that's all you need. Mike's got dies for 303 British. Well, not dies, a lead loader for the 303 British. He can resize these brass right there, Johnny, on the spot.
Yep.
And, but Mike, do you even own a 303?
Yeah. Actually, no. I traded it off. My dad's got one, though.
Well, there you go. You can make ammo for your dad's rifle.
Yep.
So anyway, Jason, the question was, how much impact does a reloading press have on the, oh, hell, I better read the notes. On finished ammo for long-range centerfire rifle. Okay, well, I don't think we answered Mike's question. This is not Mike Iceland, the guy on the show. This is another person. Excuse me. But anyway, I think the way he meant it was, how much does it have to do with accuracy? Well, probably not as much as you might think in that particular sense of the word, because of the fact that, well, you got to have the press to hold the shell holder and to put it all together. And when you start putting it all together, the brass guides everything. And hopefully it all comes true. When I say comes true, I don't mean as in wishes. I mean comes true as in through the axis of the case. Comes all true to center.
Yep.
So to answer that question, I would say a little bit. Like all the prep that we do on our brass to make it consistent. Every step that we take adds a little bit of accuracy. So you add it all up and you get something. But by itself, it's a tiny amount. I think if you have your dies set up properly, everything's square, you're going to turn out good ammo no matter what pressure you're using to a point. Some of the auto indexing, you're not going to have that accuracy. But it would depend on what kind of shooter you are, things like that. To somebody that's asking me that question, I would tell them to start out with whatever you can afford, because you're probably not going to notice a difference at this point. So what were they talking about in the chat that Tony Sirocco said, shh, Jason is back?
I don't remember. I wasn't paying attention there.
They were slamming you, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Oh, they were talking about different presses and yada yada. And then Mark Kodra said, "I'm looking at getting a 30-30. What model do you recommend? What kind of accuracy can I expect?" Well, just like any other firearm, accuracy is up to you, the shooter, and you, the loader. With the improvements in bullet construction and different powders, they're pretty darn good. Jeremy's got 170 grain lead cast that he's loading up in his 30-30. And I want to say it was sub 2 MOA at 400 yards. So I don't remember there. He's got a posting on it in the podcast group, and then also he's talked about it, I think, in the reloading room. But just you can squeeze accuracy out of them. The Hornady Levolution powder is pretty good. The ballistic tips that they make for that, or polymer tips. Sorry, whoever owns ballistic tip. Anyway, if you want to put the effort into the brass prep, You can get really, really good. But that's kind of how much it's like everything else with reloading. How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? I would say MOA at 200 yards is easily reachable. And as far as brand, if you can get over the way that they load, the Henrys are pretty nice. The problem is they load like an old 22 tube fed, I guess, and it's a big issue. Otherwise, the older Marlins and the Winchesters have the standard loading gate. And
why is the tube an issue, Mike? Just a speed thing?
I have no idea.
Well, I have a tube feed 22 rifle, Jason, and it loads. You have to actually withdraw the spring rod.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the Henrys do that, and they have to actually pull the spring rod to reload it. You cannot single load the gun through the loading gate.
Nope. So that would be an issue. Especially if you're trying to do load development, it's going to be a pain in the butt to try and load it. So from that respect, the newer Marlins, like pretty much everything else that anything that Freedom Group made, suck.
I am so glad I got my 1894C before Freedom Group, made before Freedom Group.
Yeah. My brother's got a 336C that is a joy to shoot, and it is accurate, even with factory Remington core locks. But it's also pre-Freedom Group. So I don't say pre-Remington because Remington's problems aren't Remington's problems. Remington's problems are Freedom Group's problems. And anybody who has spent any time paying attention to the firearms industry for the last 20 years knows how horrible Freedom Group is to a company. They've destroyed quite a few. Don't know
if you're not making enough profit, you're out of business.
Yep. They put a couple of business or firearms companies out of business. They've tried their best to put Remington out of business by horrible quality control. I'm sorry, when you take the two best selling firearms in the company's history and you screw them up with safety concerns because you decide you're going to cheap on quality control, and then you get sued over it, yeah, you got issues. So
you yourself had one of those.
Yep. But I didn't have one of the two best ones of all time.
Oh boy.
I had that was a 770.
Even so.
But
yeah, Remington had a few models with issues prior to Freedom Group.
Yeah, they started a little bit of issues with the 700 triggers, but that was kind of an isolated thing. And then with Freedom Group, they screwed up the 870, which I don't know how you screw up the 870. Stamping them for over 50 years, and somehow they came in and screwed them up.
Right.
It just never ceases to amaze me. Some things people do. And yeah, the Winchesters, if you get on the forums, you can find out with the Winchesters, what's good, what's bad. There's some out there, some years that are better than others. For the most part, they're pretty good. The biggest thing you're going to run to is if you get older ones, are they shot out? How tight was the tolerance to begin with? For the most part, the newer the firearm, the better it's going to be. Like I said, for the most part, if you want to know, see previous discussion. Rossies are okay, depending. Sometimes you can find some good Rossies. Sometimes there's some bad ones. It all kind of depends on how you want to, what you want to deal with. You know, it's one of those, if you can find a Rossi and you can actually shoot it before you buy it, that would be an awesome thing. But, you know, it's there is lots of different options out there for lever guns that there never used to be. I think even Chiappa's now making one, but I don't remember. And
did we cover Marlin?
Yeah, we said pre Freedom Group.
Oh, Freedom Group bought Marlin too.
Yeah, they bought Remington and then Remington Marlin.
That sucks.
Yeah, pretty much. So just for kicks, I did a Google search quick. Let's see. Let's see what we all got. So you've got Henry, you've got Marlins, Winchesters. Uberti makes a 1873 repro. Ubertis are good. I don't know if they make that in 30-30 or not now. I think that's probably more of a pistol caliber. I guess the XLRs for Marlin are supposed to be pretty good, but they're kind of pricey. So, you know, one of those things to kind of keep an eye on as you're looking for all these different things. But a lot of the, you know, the Marlins you can find, the only problem is if it's an older one, you're going to pay for it. I've seen some of the older 336s going for, you know, over $1,000 because everybody knows that the older ones are good. But yeah, there's lots of different stuff out there. Take a look. The nice thing is the Winchester, there's a lot of different options because they've, you know, got some of the older ones and they've got some of the reproductions, reissues, if you want to say. So the nice thing is the 30-30 has been around a long time. So it kind of gives you some flexibility in that. But you got to kind of take a look around and see what you can find. Oh yeah, Bighorn Armory's got some custom ones too. In all fairness, guys, only two of them or only one of them's from tonight. The rest of them are from previous. This is only the second.
Yeah, okay, let's go with that story.
If you watch last week's, you'll see there's one. I usually collect them until it's full and then haul them out.
You lazy bastard. Pick up after yourself, damn it.
Why? My
Born
garage.
in a barn?
My garage, dang it. Not really.
I got a question.
What?
Speaking of last week's.
Yes.
So listening to you guys ramble on incessantly about things, I heard you mention using a 550 as a turret press, except the powder drop.
Correct.
What about the powder drop? I did not understand that.
So my thought was, by the way, welcome, Phil.
Hi, Phil. Mike. Appreciate the invite. Hey, guys.
Well, there goes the show. You didn't tell me.
Exactly.
I would have taken another week off, dang it.
Guys. Well, I tried
to. Phil, how you doing, man?
But
hey, Jason, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Hey, Jim, I see you hiding back there.
Yeah.
What's up, Phil? What's up? How you doing, man? I ain't seen you since last time you were on the show.
Yeah, well, it took a while for y'all to forget about how horrible of an experience that was before y'all invited me back on.
Yeah. Well, that's right. You did invite me on Matter of Fact podcast yourself. I think it was, what, the second show you did?
I'd have to go back and look at the old episodes. It's been a while.
Yeah. Anyway, it's good seeing you, man.
All right. So we were talking about last week's conversation where I was talking about using a 550 as somewhat of a turret to not buy a single stage press, but, you know, be able to kind of step your game, you know, be able to learn simply yet. But what I was talking about is running the 550 without the powder drop installed. because then you actually are charging your cases off the press. So you don't run, so you're decreasing your chances of double charging or triple charging your cases. And we have a question coming up on what happens when you triple charge a case. Sit tight for that. But what I was talking about is
I think Jason's falling asleep.
that's nothing new. He always falls asleep.
I thought that was the one getting blamed for that mess.
Yeah, that too. The joys of podcasting when you're trying to read crap. But at least now I don't fade out.
Well, I have something interesting here.
You have a permanent marker. Does your wife know you have one of those?
I have a 44 Magnum. And it's a big rascal, too. It's deadly when used incorrectly.
You going to write on the wall?
It's a 44 Magnum, I would hope so. All right.
No, Jason, I'm not going to write on my walls. I'll write on your walls. Just send me the plane ticket. I forgot about that.
Uh-huh.
Matter of fact, I wish you did live a lot closer. I'd hire you to paint this whole place.
It's a brand new house.
I know. But it's been coated with primer, not paint.
Huh.
Well, that kind of sucks.
Anyway, continue, Mike, please.
All right. So, well, let me lock the camera. So, with the 550, you've got four stations. First station is your decapping, then also priming, because you prime down here. Then your next is your powder. Next is your case flaring, in my case. And then your bullet seeder. And crimp, because I do crimp it back to unflare the case where I put the flare in. So what I'm saying is, because you manually index, you can actually feed a case in. You can deprime and prime. And then if you want, you can just keep feeding cases. And then with the hopper that belongs there, collect all your primed cases, put them in, or what you can really do if you want, the coolest thing about a 550, these little gold pins here, that's all the thing that keeps the brass in. So if you pull that out, like say I want to do over here, I pull that one out right there. Then when I rotate the brass, I can just pluck it out, put it in my loading block. When I'm done charging the cases, I can start feeding them in here, rotate it around, and then go ahead and do my bullet stuff. And so that's what I was saying. It's not mounted down, otherwise I would have actually showed it.
Mm.
But that's what I was saying about being able to use it kind of like a single stage.
Okay, but I don't understand why you don't leave your powder drop on the press. I mean, yeah, I understand you don't want to double charge, but you're watching one case. You're not doing multiples. You're doing one until you learn this. And it goes up and it gets charged with powder, and then it drops back down, and you're looking at it, weighing it, doing whatever you're doing. And then you progress to the next station. Am I missing something?
Well, what I was talking about isn't doing it like that. I'm talking about actually going ahead and literally strictly just depriming and priming your case. And then taking them all off, putting them in the loading block, and then charging each one.
Okay.
Putting them back on the press. You could do each step individually and literally just do one case all the way around also. That's not what I was describing.
Okay.
Can I toss a question in the midst of this, guys? Because I've never messed.
Right.
We're going to be like that, I guess. Well, no, I'm still the stubborn one that loads everything on a single stage, and I haven't progressed towards progressive press yet, but I've always been under the impression, it might be a false one, that you give up some kind, there's some kind of consistency given up between a single stage and individually charging and all that versus going to a progressive press. It's not just speed for the sake of speed, but there's some kind of penalty to the consistency from one round to another. Is there truth to that, or is that just something that people tell people to justify buying single stages?
No, there is some truth to that.
Yeah, there is some truth to that. So, depending on what type of press, where you have it mounted, typically with your Dillons, you're not going to see as much of a difference. They're a lot more stable. With the Loadmaster, the way that shell plate's set up, there's a little more flex to it versus comparing the Loadmaster to the 550. There's a little more flex in the plate on the Loadmaster. Plus the way the turret or the way the shell holder is in there is it kind of sits and floats a little bit. Unlike the 550 where it actually slides into a channel and locks in, so there's not really much flex. With the Loadmaster, that whole turret drops in, and then you use a set screw on the side to hold it in place, so there's some give there. There can be some. And then there's always some shell plate flex. It's the question is how much flex is there in each of the shell plates? And that's where you run into your issues with progressive press versus a single stage. Now, if you're loading pistol, especially if you're loading pistol for practice, it doesn't make a difference.
But on the other hand, if you're loading, say, rifle, you're looking for more precision, does that kind of sway the new reloader back towards a single stage in the name of the best possible consistency?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Because without getting into the whole long story, I recently was invited into the home of a 45-year reloading veteran.
Yep.
Who'd been reloading for 45 years. And I'm going to tell you, he had a Lee single stage sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he loaded everything on from 223 Remington all the way up to, I think 338 Win Mag was the big boy in his collection. So I know it works, but I also know that there's a penalty in speed.
Yeah. That's where you have to determine as a loader where your break-even point is, I guess. Are you a hobbyist who's just basically loading hunting rounds? And maybe you've got a carry pistol that you go you've got a pistol that you go play around with at the range, once a month or once every 3 months. Progressive's not going to be for you. If you're a competitive shooter, especially a 3-gun, and you're shooting, 223 and 9mm, and you're going to a match a month, absolutely going to pay for itself and be worth it. So,
Phil, I don't load my precision rifle ammo on my Dillon simply because, number one, the 280 cartridge is way too damn long. So is the 270. So is the 30-06. It can be done, but I don't like it. It's too long. I know the 308 can be loaded on the Dillon, but about the only rifle ammo I put on the Dillon or put through the Dillon is my 223 stuff when I'm feeding my flow-through guns.
mm-hmm.
So, my rifle ammo, I loaded on my Forster.
And when was the last time you did that, Jim?
Oh, that's just low.
Yep. Before I left Pennsylvania, Jason. I'm working on it steady but sure. But little things like this podcast interrupt the progress I make.
Oh, sorry.
Jim, you can always send all your equipment down to me, and I'll keep it, lubed and taken care of and working for you in the interim.
Or better yet, you could come up here and help me wire my shed.
I might actually consider it just get away from the Louisiana heat and humidity this time of year.
Well, we got our share of heat and humidity here in North Carolina.
Yeah, we had a what was it? We had a felt heat index over the weekend of 107.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's just normal summer.
I've seen actual temperatures of 100 degrees already.
Oh, Jesus.
That's all right. That's why I moved away from Pennsylvania, to get away from the cold.
We had 105 felt temperature a couple weeks ago. But it's been tolerable since then. We're going to hit 90 again Friday, so we're probably back. Heat index will probably be back up into 95, 97, maybe close to 100, depending on how humid it is. Because for some reason, we seem to get that swampy humidity, just like you all do down there.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have the gators to worry about, so.
Oh, we don't either. As long as you keep them fed, they're fine. They'll leave you alone.
Yeah. So you want me to send you some more tourists, is what you're saying?
Yeah. No.
I'll send you some Illinoisans.
Not going to turn those down as long as you send them to the right part of the swamp.
Exactly. Make sure you send me those GPS coordinates so I can reprogram them for them. All right.
Oh, I want to address a question on the chat.
Yes.
Kyle Martin says, "What is the benefit of crimping separately versus seat and crimp at the same die?" Kyle, some people crimp a lot. So if you're seating, if your bullet is still seating and it's starting to crimp and it gets to a certain point, you're going to screw up your case. And not all cases, if we're talking pistol, not all your cases are going to be equal. They're going to be a little bit of difference here and there. And even when you think you have it set correctly, you'll screw up a case or two. So that's why some people do that. Do you guys have anything else to add to that?
You said it all.
The only reason I crimp is to take the bell out of the case that I put in the case in the first place to help in bullet seating. Otherwise, I don't crimp, especially handgun rounds.
You want to shoot my Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum?
Without a crimp?
I'm that powerful, so I don't need to worry about it.
I'd beg to differ with you. I've had it happen with 357 Magnum.
I don't load for 357 right now because it needs a new hand, so it will get back into time.
You know what I mean.
Right. Yeah, when I start loading 357, that's a different story. But for now, like I said, I have a beautiful 686-2, but unfortunately it's out of time, so it's just sitting there until I get around to ordering a hand and retiming it. But.
Well, what we're talking about is, what Jason's joking about is 500's S&W Magnum is, with the way the recoil works and the recoil of the handgun itself, the hand cannon, actually tends to pull the casing off of the bullet because of the bullet weighs so much more than the empty brass case. Okay, and what we're talking about is inertia. Yep. Just like a bullet puller, kinetic bullet puller, it works. I've had it happen with two different handguns. With my Super Blackhawk, I've had it happen, and with my Dan Wesson, I've had it happen. Simply because in the Dan Wesson's case, I simply didn't have it crimped tight enough, and in the 44 Magnum, I didn't realize it wasn't tight enough. Same thing. And I would tell you what, there's nothing that'll lock a gun up faster than a bullet stuck in the barrel, halfway out of the case, halfway in the barrel.
Yep.
And how do you get it out? Well, you take something and you try very gently, very, very gently to coax that bullet back into the case until you can get the cylinder open.
Mhm.
Anyway, and yeah, we're talking about driving a bullet back into the case is what we're talking about, as dangerous as that is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really have much of a choice. You're not going to be able to pull the. You're not going to be able to pull that bullet all the way down the barrel. So using a bullet isn't going to work. There's
Nope.
there's two options. I mean, you could try and get a hacksaw in there and cut the bullet in half, but more than likely you're probably
No, that whole idea gives me the willies.
right.
The barrel cylinder gap is 2 thousandths at the most, and the hacksaw blade is 30 thousandths at the most. You put a hacksaw blade anywhere near that the barrel end, and between the barrel and cylinder, you're going to ruin your gun. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You're going to end up on the wall of shame of your local gunsmith.
That's awesome.
And own a new barrel and a new cylinder.
Uh-huh. And he's going to tell all of his friends about you.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Look at what that dumbass Phil did.
Nope. I do a bit of my own gunsmithing, but I know when I'm in over my head.
That is.
I haven't gotten there yet, but I know when I'm in over my head.
That's a good thing to know. So, yep. Definitely a good thing to know. Our next question isn't necessarily a question, but it's more informative. Scott posted, I loved this Bisley Blackhawk, or Bisley, however you say it, in 45 long Colt. Sadly, I blew it up with a way too hot a load, a Hornady kit with a defective powder scale. I found out the hard way that it weighed 3 times the powder that was the load. So 6.2 grains of tight group was the right amount, but 18 grains was what went into the case. The sight cut my head, but otherwise okay. Could have been much worse. It's a revolver, and it's missing the top strap and half the cylinder.
It looks like he Elmer Keithed it. If anybody's familiar with that one, I mean, it's literally what he did. He blew the cylinder in half. Yep. Jesus.
Yeah, so he's very blessed and very lucky that that's all that happened.
Mike, the reason I put that in there is because we were talking about that exact powder last weekend, about double, triple, even quadruple charging cases with tight group. It's an extremely dangerous powder if not used properly.
Yep.
Bullseye's just as bad, if not worse.
You never trust anything.
This is also the reason why when I talk to people getting into reloading, I intentionally recommend very bulky powders.
Yep.
So that if you double charge the case, it's going to go right over the edge of the rim. I mean, there's no way I'm not going to say no way to screw it up, but they're much more foolproof.
Well, Phil, if somebody tries to put 48 grains of Hercules 2400 in a 44 Magnum case, they're going to wind up with powder all over their press. And there's surely to God they'll figure out, hey, there's something wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, if they don't,
they're on their own.
I have to suggest a different hobby for them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice way to call him a dumbass.
No, I hate the word dumb, but there are some people out there that really shouldn't reload their own ammunition.
Amen.
Hear, hear. I second that and third that and fourth that.
Mike, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to ask you to put the photo of that in the show notes too.
I will.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's important for people to see. Last question tonight is from Miguel. And he says, ultrasonic cleaners. Who uses them and what's the pros and cons of them? I have one I use for cleaning my gun parts, barrels, as well as watches and jewelry. What do you use in them? Saw a video last night of RCBS new ultrasonic cleaner. No money to buy this one, but I do have an old Harbor Freight 2.5 liter cleaner. Do you have your special cleaning solution, or do you buy the ready-made solutions offered by Lyman's or Hornady? I have an ultrasonic, and I have not used. I have the Hornady ultrasonic. It works pretty well. Nice timer. It heats up the solution. I've used LSD in it with good success. And then, as we saw one night, what happens when you leave brass laying in LSD for too long. LSD would be Let Me Shine and Dawn, by the way, not the perfect drug. I don't think that would make a very good brass cleaner, and I'm pretty sure it'd be really expensive. So
far out, man.
Although Jason might know a guy, seeing where Jason's at. He's in the right part of the country for that. I have talked to quite a few people when I got mine, find out what they're using, and it's kind of a 50-50 split. Using the pre-made solutions or using the Let Me Shine and Dawn mix. The thing you have to be careful on all of them is you do need to rinse that brass when you're done. Any and or all of them. You want to clean the brass off one way or another. I rinse mine and then throw them in my media tumbler, my vibrating tumbler, to dry it. The problem with any of the wet cleaning solutions, whether it's ultrasonic or it's wet tumbling, you have to dry the brass somehow. And the point, for the most part, of spending that much effort and that much money to clean them is to kind of make them shiny. If you don't rinse them and then dry them, they don't stay shiny very long at all. If at all, because you get water spots and everything. The nice thing is, once you rinse the existing solution off then you can throw it in the tumbler and it takes care of it.
So what's the benefit to an ultrasonic over just using a wet tumbler then?
You're not, usually it's a faster. It doesn't typically take as long as it would for wet tumbling. It's just kind of a personal preference. Now, for him using it for gun parts and stuff like that, that's a huge advantage because some stuff you can't take apart as much as you need to, and that's where the ultrasonic cleaner is going to come in handy. Obviously, your mileage may vary, and as far as gun cleaning, make sure you're using gun cleaning solution. A lot of that stuff is specifically formulated to not eat polymer and other such nasty stuff that they use in firearms nowadays. And if you don't use the correct solution, you may pull what you thought was a really nice, polymer pistol out, and it's a pile of goo. The other advantage of ultrasonic, if you're just ultrasonic drying them off, is that you don't have to put media in the primer and that type of thing. So that's kind of the advantage of that, is you're not going to have to worry about media getting stuck in the primer pockets if you're depriming your brass first before cleaning. They do work well. I don't know about as far as shininess, because like I said, I throw mine in the vibrating tumbler to dry them anyway.
So, Mike, you like your Hornady? Wow, big word.
Ultrasonic.
Ultrasonic. Thank you, Phil. Mark and I both had one, and neither one of us thought too much of the results.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering why. What's the difference? Any clue?
I guess if I'd had to pay full price for it, I probably wouldn't have.
I think it's a matter of whether or not you're willing to accept clean brass as opposed to wanting shiny brass.
That's kind of
now with the wet tumbler, you get shiny brass and you get clean brass. With an ultrasonic, you get clean brass. With a tumbler, you get clean brass and you get shiny brass. It's a matter of personal preference, yeah. Because the other thing is too, wet tumblers using stainless steel pins, they can clean. It actually cleans primer pockets. Whereas even if you decap your brass in a vibratory tumbler, it doesn't clean the primer pocket all that well.
Right. And my
The big-
ultrasonic didn't clean primer pockets that well, or the inside of the case that well. But it could have been the chemical I was using. I tried different things. It didn't impress me. But the other thing is, ultrasonic, your clean brass is more sticky. You guys were talking on last week's podcast about brass shavings and whatnot, and Jim's nodding off.
No, Jim's not. Jim's leg is cramping.
Uh-oh.
That's all it was about.
Yeah, it's cramping in the back of my thigh, the worst place possible. But anyway, that's not what the show's about. Continue, Jason.
Drink water, not rum.
Yeah, really.
Great.
So, your clean brass is a little more sticky, whereas your polished brass has a little lubricant to it and is slick. So I believe that's why Mike vibrates his brass after he's done with his ultrasonic, and that's what I do after I'm done with my stainless steel. Just so you know everything, you need to get all the info. I don't know what your budget is or anything like that, but I stainless steel clean mine, and then I throw them in the tumbler with some wax and tumble them.
Do you throw them in the tumbler wet? Not, I mean,
I
drenched. I mean, you shake them dry, obviously on a towel or something, but do you throw them in wet?
I do throw them in wet.
Okay.
I'd honestly never thought of doing that. See, I always dry tumble mine, then wet tumble, then I just leave them out overnight to dry.
Then you're leaving water spots on it.
Yeah, I always make a point of shaking all the water off and then like moving around by hand, cycling them, rolling them over once or twice. I have lots of time in my hands, so
yeah. Well, that's one of the advantages of the ultrasonic is speed. Whereas, with an ultrasonic, I can clean a batch of, 100 and have them clean in, 5 to 10 minutes. Just a couple of cycles. Now, obviously, the more I put in, the less I put in, it changes that. But I was running batches of 100 140 Smith, and it was basically 3 cycles, which is like 5 minutes, and they were good. And then into a bucket of water, and then into the vibratory tumbler, and they were in there for probably 20 minutes to an hour max. So versus 2 to 4 hours in a regular vibratory tumbler, or an hour to 3 hours in a stainless, and then however long to dry. I've got, depending on how shiny I wanted them, I've got anywhere from, literally like a half hour to an hour in there. And I can, I can throw 300 or 400 40 cases in my vibratory tumbler. So, you're probably talking, as much as, processing 500 pieces of brass in probably about an hour and 15, realistically. So now if I want them super shiny, then, it's, a couple hours. But otherwise, just normal processing, you're probably looking about an hour and a half max. So that's kind of the advantage of the ultrasonic, because it's faster. But
makes sense.
You got to get the solution right too. So I did play around with the mix of LSD until I got it right to where it was cleaning. So that's kind of the key with that is playing around and finding that right mix of Dawn versus Lemmy Shine versus water mix. Till you get the right combination, you hit on the right mix, and making sure you record it so that way you can replicate it. So
Hookem says he uses a corn cob. I use toilet paper, Hookem. You should try it sometime.
And y'all worried about me with the lowbrow humor.
That corn cob would be a little rough.
You think?
Maybe.
Fresh or dry?
I don't care. I'm not trying it.
Oh, wait, this wrong, wrong podcast, guys. Wrong podcast.
Isn't the potty humor podcast? Damn it.
I think so.
Well, we let Trumbo on, so who knows? Jeez.
And here I've been behaving myself.
Don't worry, we'll fix that problem.
Okay, you've got a lot of editing to do.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, crikey. Now, he uses corn cob. I used corn cob for a while, and I'll tell you what, I crushed walnut. You get the lizard bedding or, from your pet store, and oh my goodness, is that so much nicer.
Yep.
It definitely speeds up your time, too. That's the other thing I noticed, is it definitely speeds up the time if you just go straight vibratory.
Well, another tool I have is I use a brass separator, RCBS brass separator. That's the best $44 I ever spent on my reloading gear. You probably have one back behind you there, don't you, Mike?
No, I do not have a brass separator. That is a really nice, especially if you're picking up range brass. What Jim's talking about isn't something to separate the media from the brass.
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's all you're talking about? Well, then heck,
That's all I'm talking about.
mine was a lot cheaper. I thought you were talking about one of the nice fancy tools that you can throw like all your range brass when you had your 9 and your 40 and your 45 and your 380, and you can throw them all in one bucket and then it shakes them out into different components.
That's a brass sorter. I'm talking about brass separator.
Tomato, tomato. So,
Media separator.
There you go.
Thank you, Jason.
aha!
I made my own, but I discovered too late that the holes are just the right size that if you let some 22 rimfire get into the batch, they'll slip right through the holes.
Yep.
Yep.
You're talking about, you sound like you made it out of 1/4-inch hardware cloth.
Actually, what I did was I had a plastic tub left over from ice cream, and I just drilled a whole ton of holes in the bottom of it and found a container to fit in. That way you pour all your brass and your media in the top, shake it around until it all falls through.
Sounds like you need a new plastic bowl and smaller holes.
$1.50 bucket from Walmart. $1 colander from the local resale.
Yep.
$3.
And you could probably find that at the Salvation Army.
Ta-da!
Yep. Media separator.
Yeah, and it didn't cost $45. It's not green, but hey, the bucket's blue.
Well, at least in mine, I roll it over. Yeah, okay, fine. I bought a tool instead of making my own.
Which one do you have, Jim?
The RCBS one, the big one.
Cheap bastard.
Cheap.
Get a Dillon.
No.
The big Dillon is nice. I use the big Dillon for my dry media separation. And I use the
Yes, sir.
RCBS for the wet. I like it when I have it set up.
Yeah,
But that Dillon is a nice one. Boy, it holds some stuff. I'll tell you that.
Well,
good advice.
what I'm going to have is that size right there. So what I've got works perfect. That's the nice thing about that. But if you're processing more brass, then it's definitely bigger. Nice to have a larger.
And it's only money.
That's right.
If it has the Dillon name on it, it costs a little bit extra. I can tell you that.
Yeah, but the whole reason I started reloading was to save money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I'm saving money. Look at how much money I'm saving.
Yeah.
I saved some money.
Talk about the biggest myth there is in reloading.
Hey, I still have Mrs. Matter of Fact sold on the idea that I'm saving money reloading. Don't blow this for me.
You can save money. It's just that we don't. That's all.
Exactly.
I probably could if I really tried. But, you know, when you start manufacturing ammo for half price, it's like, oh, who cares? Just shoot a little more.
Yep.
There goes the savings.
Now we're talking facts.
And then you have the cartridge that you don't have a gun for, and then you think, well, maybe I should buy that gun.
Yeah, or you come into reloading components for free and you think to yourself, I don't have anything on earth that will shoot a cartridge. I can reload with any of this. Which now means I'm obligated under reloader law to go buy a firearm that shoots a cartridge to reload with those components.
Correct.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Here.
Yeah, you three are bad for my savings account.
We try.
That's why I like call us the great enablers.
That's right. We swiped it from Gresham.
Well, we added the letter S because of the team of us.
Right. Now, the problem with saying that you never save money is it's a bold-faced lie.
You do save money.
I say it very tongue-in-cheek.
Your cost per cartridge
Mm-hmm.
varies. Some it's a small savings, some it's a significant savings. All depends on what you shoot. Obviously, it's past Jim's bedtime, so.
No,
I'm not asleep.
I don't disagree with you at all, Mike. I believe it. It's just kind of, I say it very tongue-in-cheek.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get two reloaders together and drop that one and not get two different opinions.
Yeah. It's like talking about loading shot shells. With the cost of lead nowadays, it's not practical, but it is. The thing that most people fail to realize is when you're loading shot shells, you're not loading your cheap 100-pack Walmart, $22. You're loading AA, or you're loading the Nitro 27s, something like that. That's, a bit more. So instead of $4.50 to $5 a box, you're talking $7.50, $8, $9 a box, because that's the quality you're loading. And if you're not, well, then you need your head examined, because what's the point of loading shot shells if you're not going to put the effort into it?
I had this argument with two friends of mine recently. One of the co-hosts of my podcast and a friend of ours. And the whole conversation revolved around 308 Winchester. And they readily conceded that, yes, when you compare match ammo, you can obviously reload cheaper than that. Even using like Sierra Match King's premium components, you can beat about a box of Federal Gold Medal match any day of the week and twice on Sunday reloading. But the argument came in of, well, what if you're just looking for like cheap plinking ammo? So I went on a 5-minute crusade to find, M80 ball military teardowns, I think for like 16 cents each, and pointed out to them where you could, various places on the internet, you can get range brass 308, a good economical powder, primers, and I proved to them, like, I can beat you even on cheap plinking ammo. You can reload cheaper, cost per round, and I haven't seen many rounds that doesn't apply to.
Right.
I found a few that it's pretty close.
9mm 115 grain FMJs and 55 grain 5.56 are probably the only two that it's a serious contest, and the only way it's a serious contest is if you're buying in bulk, 1,000 rounds or more.
Honestly, I can even beat those prices. The one that kills me is 7.62x39 because brass is always hard to find. It's hen's teeth, and when you can find it, somebody wants money for it.
Right.
That's been the one cartridge that's eluded me.
Well, that's why you buy 7.62x54 and make your own brass.
Make 7.62x39 out of 7.62x54?
Possibly. I don't remember if the only thing I don't remember on that is if 7.62x39 is a rimmed case. If it's a rimmed case, perfect. If not, then
no. By 39 is a rimless intermediate cartridge. Think of it like a heavily tapered 300 Blackout.
So there's got to be a brass out there you can make it.
The only thing I'm aware of is there is some obscure Russian cartridge. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. That is the parent case to 760 by 39.
Mm.
Or if you can find 6.5 Grendel brass, you can neck that up to 760 by 39. But 6.5 Grendel brass isn't exactly falling off trees either.
Right. So that's something I'm going to talk about on another show, is how to make brass out of another brass. I got to do some research. Like I said, I wasn't sure. I don't remember if I haven't shot 762 by 39 in a while, and I didn't remember if it was a rimmed case or not. So there is lots of different cartridges out there, especially obsolete ones, that you can actually make out of current day brass. And there's different books and conversions and stuff like that. So that's something to cover for a future show. What I was going to go through tonight, but because we started late and we're running long, is I was going to show how to mount a scope.
You got pants on, right?
Maybe.
You guys remember that one, do you? Jason Bowers?
Yes. This is the thing that kept doing it on Sunday night. This is Loctite. This is vital. This is blue. If you really want to, you can use red. I don't, because I've never had an issue with using blue. And good luck getting it back apart with these fine screws. You're talking a screw.
I've used epoxy because I made sure that gun never came apart.
Well, yeah, if you're never going to worry about it. But I mean, look at the size of that screw. You can see, without even seeing it clearly, you can see it's nice and small. And it's fine thread. So using a red means you're going to be using a torch to try and get it apart.
Yep.
You don't want to necessarily do that on a firearm, because that makes stuff expand that shouldn't expand.
Or a precision optic.
What's that?
I said you probably don't want to be using a torch around a scope to begin with, though.
No, that's not good for the nitrogen filled. So, yeah, that kind of makes things distort pretty bad.
It's even harder for the anodizing on the aluminum.
Mm-hmm. I've never had an issue using blue Loctite, though.
I've never had an issue either. That's why I still use it. So, not worried. And you know what? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people drunk if they actually played the drinking game. You missed that part, Phil. A couple of the guys were being smart Alex in the podcast group the other day and suggested a new drinking game for this show. Every time I say so, you drink. I went on a so tirade for like 15 seconds at the beginning.
No, your listeners are smart Alex?
Yeah.
And every time I say it's a fact,
never.
they have to drink.
That sounds like an unfair mischaracterization. You should be ashamed of yourself.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
If they had shame.
And it's a fact they don't. There, guys, have another drink.
Oh, goodness. Not responsible for alcohol poisoning. Now, if you hate your liver, that's your own problem, not mine.
Yeah, I had suggested to Mike, we tested a new connection earlier, and I'd suggested to Mike to mount the scope tonight, but, well,
yeah,
we had technical issues, and it turned out it didn't work well.
Nope.
We apologize for the late start.
Yep, but thanks everybody who hung in, and it worked out well because then Phil got to join us.
Yeah. Sorry I was a little late. I was doing dinner with the family and happened to look at my phone. I was like, oh! Had to go run and check in with the honey and then jump on.
Yeah. So, Phil, basically, you got a standing invitation. If you want to join us, just shoot me a message, and then I'll send you the link.
I don't want to make this pest to myself, but I'm usually free on Tuesdays. So, I mean, like I've told you and Jim, and
yep.
Like I've told you and Jim before, if y'all ever need a third musketeer or a third wheel or just a little pain in the behind, I'm your guy.
All right.
That you are.
Fourth, Bill. Fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth.
No, I think he's implied.
But I can't fill your shoes, Jason. You are way too much of a personality for me to try to horn in on.
Who'd want to?
I'll have you know I am charming and brutally handsome.
You must be for your wife to put up with you. Which, by the way, I've got to make a point of friending her on Facebook because based on the back and forth between the two of you, I have new relationship goals.
Woman, fix me a drink.
Look, I have a time or two gone to my wife and pointed out stuff you two said to each other. Be like, these two are awesome.
Oh, God.
Kyle in the chat said, so it's a fact. Most of us have a pretty good buzz.
Good.
And it said, my liver and I have a good working relationship.
I think you might need to define good and working.
Right? Go to patriotpatch.co. There is a brand new reloading patch.
And it is beautiful.
Yeah. It's in pre-order right now. When it actually comes out, we'll get some and give some away. By the way, speaking of giving away, yeah, it's episode 208, so it's like, 7-8 weeks, or no, like 4 or 5 weeks, whatever. Since episode 200, those of you who won prizes in episode 200, I haven't forgot. I just have been busy as crap and haven't gotten a chance to get to packaging and shipping. So there was one gentleman who won 100 pieces of 308 brass, and then there was the 5 patch winners. I will be sending those out.
So you promise people prizes and then you don't deliver.
Well, eventually.
At least you treat everybody like you treat me, because I'm still waiting for the powder dispenser.
You're still waiting for what?
The powder dispenser. Reading.
Oh, I told you I caressed that for a bit, and then I said it was kind of too heavy to ship. So.
And the what's the lab radar, but I'm not really counting on it because I don't think we're going to let it go.
That's going out Saturday. I'm finally going to make sure I go out and test that Saturday. So I haven't gotten that thing out of the box since I got it because I knew I didn't have a chance to take it out. So it's still sitting safely packaged away. But I'll shoot some Facebook Live videos Saturday morning when I'm at the range. On that note, I want to thank everybody that tunes in every week, especially when it's the live show and you hang out for a half hour while we're trying to get our crap together.
Sad thing is, Mike and I had it going on not 30 minutes before. Well, I shouldn't say that. About 75 minutes before showtime. Mike and I had a good, solid connection.
Yep. And then my computer went to heck in a handbasket, which is why my laptop's over there now. And the computer's down there on the floor.
All because I joined.
No, it had nothing to do with that.
But we can blame it on him.
Okay.
Absolutely. We'll always blame him. Besides that, he'll take the credit for it.
Hey, we could tag team. We could blame Jason and Mark.
There you go.
Or we could just pick on everybody that isn't around, like Jeremy and Trevor, because they're not here to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Exactly. Blame it on the Canuck. We can, blame all sorts of people. It's lots of fun.
Apparently, I'm not going to be on the podcast because Mark's going to edit me out, if you didn't catch that earlier.
I did. I hope he does.
That's
Thanks,
tough.
Dick.
Now,
You're welcome, Tracy.
I still have the original copy.
Now, I happen to know that Hookem is a kind-hearted soul and a stand-up guy, and he would never do anything like that. He would never.
Well, you've been smoking.
I'm sorry, I forgot to use. I forgot to hold up the sarcasm flag.
Oh, you forgot to put your BS filter on your microphone.
Then you'd never hear anything come out of it.
Is that, and that's supposed to be a bad thing?
Depends on your perspective.
So the good news is Mark said I sound a lot better tonight, so that's good news.
Go ahead, Mike. Finish signing off, buddy.
I want to thank everybody who sends us feedback, emails, text messages, which I'll probably get one from Russ in about 20 minutes. 608-467-0308. Those email address for those of you who forgot, reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. Stop by Facebook and say hi. We usually hang out in the Reloading Podcast page, the Reloading Podcast group. And for those of you who are Patreons, our Reloading Podcast Patreon page, which is slowly gaining steam. We also do have the Gun Genie group. I try and spend time over there, but I just haven't gotten in the habit yet. So bear with me. Things are getting busier with that, so that's cool. It's good to see that there's a lot of stuff going on there.
What is Gun Groupie, Mike?
Gun Groupie. Did I say Gun Genie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sweet. Gun Genie, I think, is on Davison's Gallery of Guns website. So yeah, go to Davison's, use the Gun Genie, and find some new guns to buy. There you go. And while you're doing that, go over to Gun Groupie and check out the Reloading Podcast group over there. And the Reloading Room's got a page over there now, too. We're working on slowly building that up, so that way if Facebook goes full potato, we have a backup home. Still working on getting everything for video. It looks like Utah Gun Exchange's YouTube might actually be a solid place. So we're looking more into that and then figuring out how the live thing would work. And if we can get that figured out, we may slide over there. Because frankly, YouTube's just getting ridiculous. And it's only a matter of time before they go full potato too.
Yep.
Political correctness is the worst thing we ever have faced.
No, I wouldn't even call it political correctness at this point.
No, I don't think it's the worst. I think the worst is by far and away the morons that don't understand what the Second Amendment truly means. And
all right.
I would say that the mainstream media currently is the bigger problem than PC. PC is a secondary issue, which feeds into that. But I would definitely say mainstream media, driven by, driven by the forces that are driving that to totally skew what is truth. Honestly. They don't have people paying attention to facts and figures anymore. It's all based on emotion. It's how do you feel?
Ratings, money, advertisers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's probably the bigger threat. If you don't belong to a gun advocacy group, find a good one. NRA, we can fix eventually, but it's not a quick fix. It's a slow process. We need to continue getting voting members, which is been a member for 5 years, or a lifetime member. And right now they got a deal where it's lifetime membership for $600. Saw that the other day. So they're trying to do a membership drive. When they're doing that, it's usually a good time to join. The benefit is if we get enough people that are voting members, we can continue to vote out people like Marion Hammer and continue to vote in people that are worth being there, like Timothy Knight, Sean Maloney, and get Adam Kraut voted in finally. And there's others, Julie Gollub's on the board now. People that are actual trigger pullers and shoot competition and understand that, no, it's not about hunting. It's about everything, and that you can't give another inch. So that's what we really need. And the only way we're going to get it, NRA, unless we can find somebody to replace it, and there isn't an organization out there that can right now. DOA can. Firearms Policy Coalition is another one that might off the top of my head. Second Amendment Foundation, one that everybody should support, because they are the ones. Speaking of, on the 10-year anniversary of Heller, which was yesterday? Sometime this week. It was the 10-year anniversary where we got the decision down from the Supreme Court on Heller, which really kind of sparked a new a renewed focus on fixing all the anti-gun stuff. Yeah, like Mark says, join your state. Build at the lower level. The state is where everybody's taking the battles to now. Savage was ranting Monday on We Like Shooting about the new law that they're trying to rail down Washington. They got I-594 a couple of years ago, which was universal background checks and a bunch of other stupid crap. And now they're trying to do something that's basically the same thing, but they're just passing another law. There's over 20,000 gun laws on the books in the country. Various ridiculousness. And just kind of need to work at it. But we got to get organizations that are going to fight for us the way they need to fight. And the only way to fix the NRA is to get involved, to become that life member and just coding. And to make sure that you're contacting people. Now, here's the thing. With the NRA, when you give them that membership, it doesn't go to ILA. Chris Cox doesn't get to spend it in Washington on lobbying. It doesn't go to the political victory fund. It strictly goes to the original purpose of the NRA. It goes to firearms education. It goes to firearms safety. It goes to the Eddie Eagle program. It goes to teaching range safety officers. It goes to their training programs. Whether it's their military programs or they've got a reloading program. It goes to that type of thing. It doesn't go to any of the political stuff. So for those of you who are thinking, about the NRA and their political crap, you're not giving a dime to them. I haven't given a dime to them other than for my own membership. And when they call and ask, I simply tell them not until Wayne LaPierre and Chris Cox are gone. When they're gone, I'll start giving money again. So the ILA and the Political Victory Fund are completely separate from the original NRA. And that's kind of one of those things that people don't understand.
That's actually a pretty good point, though. Some that does get overlooked.
Yeah, it does. Aaron Baldwin asked, is there a place where I can see the attendance in the minutes of an NRA board meeting? Adam Kraut, when he was running, posted on his page on Facebook a listing of the attendance. I don't know. There's got to be a way to get the minutes. I'm not sure. I will find out, and I will post it on the podcast group page. I'll message Adam and see if we can find out. But otherwise, you can go to Adam's page and find out who's attended board meetings and who hasn't. But we've got a bunch of celebrities that are on the NRA board that don't show up. They just want to be cool and say they're an NRA board member. So that's kind of the thing that we need to address, is all of the board members that are showing up, or even worse, like Marion Hammer, that are just helping throw the NRA into the grave by all the stupidity that they keep doing. So it's a slow fight with that, but we'll get there eventually. Okay. If you're buying stuff from Brownells and Amazon, swing over to firearmsradio.tv and get Donna Brownell links. It doesn't cost you any extra. It does help out the network. Swing by Matter of Facts podcast. Great show. Great hosts. Great interaction. Awesome topics. If you haven't listened to every episode, shame on you. Lost. So,
don't lie to those people.
Now it's a good show.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, guys.
Bill's like the rest of us, pretty much self-deprecating humor. So, but yeah, they've got their stuff together over there. Definitely take a listen. And like everything, it may not be, each show may not necessarily be your cup of tea, but that's why they have the skip button on your podcast client. So if you don't like that particular topic, fast forward. for the next one, but you'll find more good than bad. And they don't have any drunk episodes, so pretty safe.
Yet.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note,
So
it's time to say goodbye to Jed and all his friends. Just remember, keep your brass shiny.
keep your powder dry.
Squeeze. Don't yank that trigger.
Quick, Phil, make something up.
Don't blow your gun up.
No
Here.
triple charges the tight group.
That's right. Thanks, everyone.